Alright, so I've got a couple of requests to look at a way to get soft shadows using Vray for Rhino. So the first thing I'm going to do is just turn off my grid simply here, just not something I need. And I'm going to put in a Vray infinite plane. So there's the plane. And then next I'm just going to make a couple boxes on the scene. There's one, just copy this here. Move a couple around, 2, 3 sounds good. We'll even rotate this one so we have something interesting to look at. And move around the scene. I'm also going to right-click perspective and change the viewport properties so that I have a nicer kind of vantage, and I'm going to go to 32 millimeters on the lens of the camera. So if I go ahead and just take a look at shaded mode, you can see there's our scene, the plane, and I'm going to bring in some materials. So the first is just with the standard default materials that are sent with Vray for Rhino. I'm going to go to the diffuse materials and use a white diffuse, and while we're here might as well bring in both. We'll bring in maybe a red diffuse material. Yeah. And so with the boxes we'll apply the red diffuse material. There's the third one, and for the plane we'll apply the white diffuse material. We're going to have to put a sunlight in the system, so we'll put it in the southwest, somewhat high in the sky, and it doesn't matter. I'm going to go back to normal view here. It doesn't matter where the light is in the scene, it's always going to illuminate in the same way. So it doesn't matter if it's off the ground plane or higher or lower, left or right, front or back, it'll still cause the exact same illumination. So I'm going to go and open up some presets for Vray Rhino, and I'm just going to use the GI IR map medium settings. I'm going to make sure that my camera is a physical camera, and I'm going to set my shutter speed to about 450. That's usually good for daylighting. I'm going to do my override my output, lock it to my aspect ratio, and just do a small, as this is just a test to show a demonstration. So there's the 3 boxes on a white plane. You can see how the shadows are cast. It's pretty bright, but the shadows are razor's edge sharp. There's no softness to them all, and we all know that's not quite how shadows work. So to modify that, you just have to select the sunlight and go into its properties. So there's the sun, we click that, and come over to the properties of the object and drop down to light. And now under light there's lots of different options. One is the turbidity, and this is the amount of dust particles in the air. Also there's ozone, which I'm not really sure what it does in Vray for Rhino, but I know it's important in real life. Maybe this is just saying we have 35% left. But the thing we're really concerned with here is the size multiplier. It's going to affect the shadow density. So right now it's at 1, and we saw those sharp shadows, but we can increase it. We'll increase it to 10, and we'll do another test rendering. And here you start to see a little bit of fuzz at the edge. It's not exactly clean, but we'll up it again, and this time going to 80. We'll notice that we finally get true soft shadows, and we have this nice gradient blur at the edge. The shadows look pretty good, but they can be improved. The way to do that is to go back to, well, first let me do this. Let's move this box up, and that way we'll see a shadow being cast dropped underneath the box, so it won't have that hard edge. We're going to keep the sun size at 80, but we're going to increase the subdivisions of the shadows. So here we're just doing 8, but we'll jump that up considerably higher to 64. And this way we'll be able to tell, how smooth we're able to get the shadows. So once again, another rendering, and let's see, it's coming up. There you go. At least to my eye, these are looking much more gradual. There's a softer transformation from the hard edge of the box where it meets the ground to the fuzzy edge far away from the object. And you can see the one floating in the back is definitely kind of a ghosty blob shadow underneath. And if we zoom in, maybe we can take a look at exactly how that's working. So again, I'm going to go to higher resolution just to see the subdivisions at play. You can already see some of the red light bouncing off the ground. That's what you would expect from a red object being close to a white plane. And you can obviously tell it's taking longer because of the higher resolution and because of the increased subdivisions. But for a final product, this is definitely something worth doing. And there you can already start to see that at the edges of the box, the light's bouncing in underneath, so the shadow's been solved. The center of the box, furthest away from the sun there, is the darkest spot, and it tapers off on all directions. So that's kind of the basics. It's not a very complicated one, although it's not at all straightforward. Changing the sun size is the way to make your shadow softer. Thanks.